A crazy day all around came in for us here on Thursday as we ended the week, a shortened week, as we were going to go into the long weekend with the 4th of July celebrations and things like that. More or less, what happened is Wednesday night into Thursday, futures tanked. We were all the way down in the queues to that 707, 709 area down there. Nice little rip. We had the jobs numbers come out, and guess what? It's nothing new. We kind of knew exactly what was happening anyway. Everything shot up, and about 8:30 we were up at 7:30 here in our Nasdaq. Everything was looking good. We thought we were going to hold Nasdaq at about 7:30, or the Qs anyway, that is the ETF in here 7:30. We thought the SPY was going to be at about 7:50, and then we were going to go from there. Opening hit, well, we kind of faded into opening, right? Opening hit, more or less kind of figure out what was going on. Then boom, all of a sudden, nice big spike. Then we thought for sure we were going to get a QQQ 730 hold. We thought SPY was going to hold at 750. Then everybody immediately sold it off, and it just ended up in a absolute bloodbath. But that wasn't the case for all of the stocks that were wrapped in and affected by the SPYs and the QQQ. So we're going to talk about that here in a second. But overall, if you're just looking at those two major ETFs, that is kind of the story of what happened in here. More so bloodbath in the Qs rather than the SPY. We're also going to look at that here in a second too. But more or less, all your volatility came in the Qs. You did not get any help in here from AMD and Micron. We thought when we had that initial pop right around that 8:30 a.m. mark, or that, that Micron had that nice big jump. AMD was there. We thought we were going to have a nice helping coming from those chip stocks. But obviously, once everything kind of started selling off, then nothing was really there to save us. So going forward, what are we looking at here in our QQQ? We ended the week 712, down around 2%. More or less, we ended the week kind of where we started it, right? So we had a nice little run up in here, almost touched those 738s, that major resistance right here, kind of bounced right off of that, even though we were kind of just short, just shy of that. And kind of just ended where we started. So going forward, what are we looking at in here? First up, 722. Then we're looking right here at that 738. Like we mentioned, anything outside of there, we're looking at 748 and then 750, which is going to be where our overall trend line is right here. To the downside, what is going to save us in here? That 9-day EMA, we've been riding that in here for a little bit in here. That is going to be a major spot for us. You can see we kind of sat right on it this past week and then the previous week as well. 706, that's our number in here. If that does breach, then we're looking at 696 and then all the way down here right around that 675. Our RSI got reset in here just a little bit in the past 2 weeks. Obviously, with the big moves that we had in here on Thursday, that helped out a little bit. So we're not technically overbought anymore. We're sitting back here at 61 on our RSI. So that could help things as we're going forward. So a little bit more consolidation through here, and then we can get our run. But we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens. We're also going to look at the SPY in here. More or less kind of the same moral in here. Same kind of story happened. We had a nice big run in here, but we ended the week on a green note in here, right? So 744. So we ended green to the upside in here. We're still looking at 760. We did mention that if we want to get a nice big cross of that 750, that we're going to need some momentum. How we're going to get that momentum is you've got to go back before you go forward. So a little bit of a not really a large V-shaped pullback in here, but you do need some sort of something in here to fully reset this RSI so we can get forward in here and start going back to those 750s with a hold. But you can see 4 red candles in a row. Obviously, something had to give. We had some consolidation in here with our overall green week in here. And we're going to see how that is going to shake things up. We did not get any help from the NASDAQ, so that's a problem. If we did get help from the Qs in here, I think we would definitely be over 760. Or definitely over 750 easily, probably up near those 760s. But obviously, we did not get any help whatsoever from the Qs. And then we had everything kind of pull back, and that is kind of what happened in here. We're going to look at a few stocks in here that really did not give us any help overall. So we're going to look at Micron. This is something that we literally just talked about in a video in here, and we were mentioning certain levels. Well, it looks like to the downside, we hit all those levels, right? So now we're just kind of worrying about this 9-day EMA and this overall lower trend line in here, sitting about that 910 mark. We're more or less at 975 or more or less, kind of where we were before that big earnings jump and that run up that we had in here. So we're going to see if this does hold. If not, then we're going to breach this lower trend line. Then we're working our way back down here to right around those 865 marks. If that does not hold, then obviously we're looking down here at that 800 cycle level. To the upside in here, we're going to be looking at obviously the $1,000 mark. That's going to be a nice big cycle level for us. Anything outside of there, we're looking at that 1080, and then we're looking up here at 1110. We're going to take a look at SpaceX in here. This is a stock that is still not really giving us a lot of data in here. I know we got about 4 weeks in here, but out of these 4 candles that we have in here, there's only one real full week of data in here. And of course, that's the one that's fully red. So going forward, we're basically down more or less kind of where it was open to kind of the public, right? The IPO price obviously was 135, but when everybody, when it was released, it was about 150, 151 right in there. So we're kind of hanging around down there. To the upside, what are we looking at in here? Well, it's going to be that 168 area. Above that, we're going to be looking at that 176 or 177 spot. And then outside of there, we're just going to see where this volatility takes us. The skew in here is still toward the calls in here. So your calls are going to be trading richer. Puts are going to be lower, but you're going to get better prices on your put spreads because of that. And that is because your risk is to the upside in here. If you go anything, or if we look at anything to the downside in here, basically it's going to be where we opened up, right? So it's going to be right around that 149, or the low that came in there, 149, right around where we kind of opened. So that's what we're looking at in there. So kind of the tale of 2 different stocks in here, right? So Micron, nice big run up going into earnings, a large pullback on Thursday. SpaceX, you still into the day up around 3%, coming off a pretty large, decent pullback as well. So that is kind of what we're looking at in here. We're going to talk about Apple real quick, just because this is something that just had so much momentum going into Thursday's trading session, and it had so much bullish net flow coming in. I thought that this was going to have the chance to kind of prop up the whole market. Obviously, it helped with the SPY. It helped jump the Qs there. But as soon as everybody started selling off all of those semis and your AI things like that, obviously, just having Apple green did not help us whatsoever. And it's kind of been doing its own little thing here recently as well. So nice big green candle on the week, 308 in here on the day, up almost 5% to the upside in here, 311. Outside of there, it is going to be this upper trend line, about 320, or I'm sorry, 317 or so is what we're going to be looking at in here. To the downside, 303. Then we're looking at that 9-day EMA sitting right around that 295 area. That's going to be a nice support for us. Outside of that, it's going to be back into those upper 280s, and we're going to be focusing on that 288 range in here. So that's kind of the interesting thing about all of this, right? So you're looking at the overall markets. You're looking for that correlation, seeing what's going to happen in here. You're watching things like Micron and SpaceX. You're looking at a little bit of AMD. You're looking at NVIDIA, which we have pulled up here. You can see nice little doji here, green. And then you have Apple that just took off, and yet we couldn't do anything with that, right? So we had that pop, and it seemed like it took everything with it in the morning, and yet the market still said, nah, we're good. And everybody kept Apple kind of propped up, and everybody just kind of rolled into Apple. So that's the most interesting thing about this whole market, because if you are new to trading and just have started trading just the markets in the past few weeks, this market is unlike anything you've ever seen in the past. And I promise you that it's unlike anything that's happened in the past year. If you started trading in the past year and you're looking at it now, you're going, oh my gosh, yes, this is crazy. I know this it's something that is very unusual, but it's something where there's so much opportunity everywhere. And I like the rotation. It's unusual. It's something that you kind of have to deal with. The correlations somewhat don't really match anymore the way they should, but we'll take it because now there's a lot more two-sided action. So I think the opening up the PDT rule kind of affected a lot of things in there. And as you can see, NVIDIA in here, more or less flat on the whole week. We were down around a couple percent almost on Thursday, yet you had that Apple pop, big tank on our Qs, and yet we're still holding here 194. You would think with the Qs pulling back and then the SPY kind of pulling back a little bit as it did, that NVIDIA would be trading down here in the lower 190s. No, it kind of held, whereas Micron just kind of fell through the floor, right? So That is kind of the things that you have to look for in this market. And when we're talking about correlations with just all these high flying, big volume tickers in here. To the upside in NVIDIA, what are we going to be watching? Obviously, 200 is the big level in here. We like the 196 for a nice big resistance that we can breach and then hold to go forward and give us a little bit momentum. But if not, then we're looking to the downside in here. 183 and then 173 is really kind of what we're focusing on in here. You have this 50-day SMA that could give us a little support in here as well, depending on how much we consolidate or where we open up on the next week's candle in here. That 50-day SMA might meet with this lower trend line and kind of mesh up right there for a bigger support for us. So we'll see what happens in NVIDIA. Again, the correlation in the market, always beware to see what is going on in here, and always take into consideration what is happening in your major ETF. If you just look at the ETFs, that's fine. You don't really necessarily have to look at the futures and things like that. Just look at your basic ETFs, compare your correlations with all these somewhat related tickers, or at least they used to be related tickers, right? And see how they're all trading and take advantage of that and roll into what everybody is rolling into, roll out of what everybody is rolling out to, or be a contrarian and fade the move. Either way, take it into your advantage, but always please be aware of what is happening in the overall market. So we'll see what happens on Monday. We're going to see where we open up, and then we will take it from there. All right, guys, if you like this video, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. We also have a Discord service if you are interested, and you can find all of our socials in the description below.